I think AI is going to usher in what I call the world of abundance. And I think we are probably in the next 5 to 10 years, a 3-day work week. And anything you want to accomplish in your life, you'll be able to accomplish.
We're your co-hosts, Vicky and Laura, and this is the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast, the ultimate guide for ambitious business founders and startups. Hear from business heroes who've faced unexpected challenges as we unpack how they slayed their dragon and reignite your instinct to conquer your dragon.
Rajeev, we are so honored to have you here today on the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast. Thank you for joining Vicky and I. We are really looking forward to having a nice, deep, interesting conversation on AI and technology and business and entrepreneurship and all those great things in your story. So first of all, thank you and welcome.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And, I'm so excited to be here. And I hope your audience gets good take home value after they get done listening to the podcast.
I'm certain of that. So I love to start these podcasts with a bit of a backstory because it's always interesting one's childhood experiences and how that leads to the person they are today. So give us a little bit of your early days story.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I did my undergrad in LA. I did my master's at USC in LA. So I'm a Southern California boy, born and bred. But my dad came here from India when he was 18. He went to Cal Poly and engineer and kind of self-made and he's done well in his life and his career. And I'm the oldest of three. And I'll tell you, I think my entrepreneur journey, I kind of remember, like, I can probably point to exactly when my entrepreneur journey and my business journey kind of took off. And when I realized I really want to be a CEO is, you've heard of an organization called Junior Achievement?
No, tell us about that.
No. So Junior Achievement's here in the States, and it's a nonprofit, and it focuses on bringing kids kind of junior high school together, and they meet and they do projects. So think of it like, so you have Boy Scouts, which is kind of like an overarching thing. And then you have Junior Achievement, which is very much focused kind of on entrepreneurship and business and life skills and that kind of thing, right? Okay. And so I was in Junior Achievement, and I still remember the very first project I ever worked on. We worked on it, it was like 7 or 8 of us working on this Junior Achievement project, and we needed to build emergency car kits. And I was like, whatever, 12 years old, and it was car kits, and within it, like, it was, if something, like, this is obviously pre cell phones and all this other stuff, right? But we put pens and paper to write notes for people in this car kit. We had inflatable, like a canister that would inflate your tire in case you got a flat tire to get you going. And to show you how long ago this was, the pay phones were still a dime. So we'd put a dime in there, right? And, so it was just, we had this nice kit, and we would sell the kit for $10. And we'd go around knocking on doors, just, hey, we've got this emergency car kit. Do you need a car kit for your car? And, I made it with these other guys. We went on and sold it, and I was the number one salesperson. And I still remember that, and I got some award, and that was really exciting to me, was to go out there and build it. So that's kind of like my first kind of lemonade stand kind of story, right? Yeah, and then from there, I just, was always the one raising my hand to try new things and different projects. And my undergrad was in international business, and my internships, I did it. My first internship was in Paris. My second internship was in Sydney, and there's a whole funny story about that to say for later, Vicky. But I did an internship in Sydney, and to make a long story short, this was pre-internet, and the travel agent who was helping me, and I was 21 years old, 22, they ended up booking me at a hotel in King's Cross. And so for those of you who are not familiar, so it was basically the red light district of Sydney at the time. And so anyways, eventually I got out of there and I went somewhere else, but it was quite interesting. And so I did that. And then from there, I just kind of started my career. And, one of the things you learn early on in life is, my advice to young kids is, you have to go to the job. The job's not going to come to you. And so I was recruited to go join a computer company in the Midwest of the US. And then from there, I got recruited to go to Dell, and I was at Dell for quite some time. I was one of Michael's first executive assistants. That was exciting. And I worked my way up at Dell, and ended up running the West Coast for Dell, and ended up moving to China and Hong Kong for Dell for a couple of years, and then Singapore for a couple of years, and then fast forward now, I'm CEO of my third company, and here we are.
Hang on, hold that thought. I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to take 15 seconds of your time to thank you for being a part of this growing community of resilient entrepreneurs. If you could do us just one massive favor and subscribe, you'll be notified of the next great episode of this podcast. And speaking of great episodes, let's get right back to it.
Gosh, it's a little hard to fast forward through a history like that. I totally get why you're fast tracking us, Rajiv, but really some significant experience moments in that. Not to mention your mentor being Michael Dell.
Yeah, Michael is fantastic. I mean, having been at a Dell competitor for a couple of years and then coming over, that really was something that really helped really propel my career. So, and I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be like him or do something like him, right? And obviously I was never going to run Dell because he was only 3 years older than me at the time, and he still is only 3 years older than me. But I had that bug. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was excited to do it. And having him as a mentor and a friend and a colleague was helpful in my career as I developed my career and just learning, right? Learning how to be a leader. And he was fabulous at teaching me how to be a leader and the things that were the non-negotiables for him, and watching him do amazing things and even watching him make some mistakes. And but it was fabulous to be in that environment.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's a conversation we often have with the entrepreneurs in our community. And that the nugget of that conversation is the importance of having someone like that in your life, someone whose shoes you can walk in or whose mess ups you can witness and go, okay, that didn't feel good. I can do that differently. And just being able to be a part of a community of people who are going in the direction where you want to go. Is that something you could speak into?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, you're never too old to learn, or you're never too young to learn. And one of the things I'll be honest with you, like the number one thing I learned from Michael was, hire people smarter than you, give them the tools to do their job and get out of their way. That was number one. And number two, I learned from him was, if you ever found yourself being the smartest person in the room, you have the wrong room, so I mean, there's all these kind of cliches and things you hear, and there's the Steve Jobs quote of, "We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do," kind of stuff, and all that stuff is true. And some people might find those things funny nowadays, but it's true. Those things matter. And one of the things I've learned is, for you, if you ever want to be a CEO, if you ever want to take on that type of a role, if you ever want to be an entrepreneur, you have to really believe in yourself. Before the team can believe in you, before investors can believe in you, before partners can believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. If you're not willing to believe in yourself, don't do it, because it's just not going to work. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to have thick skin. You have to be willing to take the risks. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you're going to make mistakes. You got to roll with the punches, and you have to deal with it. And I'll tell you, there might be times when you might suffer some imposter syndrome. I've gone through that as well. And I'll be honest with you, COVID was extremely, extremely, extremely hard on my company and on me. And we can talk about that as well, and what happened and how we recovered and the attitude about that. But those things really matter. And having that mentor and, being able to pull back your memories to understand how he or she or they may have done something is really important and helpful. And it can be a parent, it can be a sibling, it can be whomever. I don't care who it is, but just find somebody who you feel like can really help you level set your future.
Yeah, it's absolutely so important. Let's lean in a little bit on what you just mentioned about imposter syndrome, because we know that that's something a lot of us deal with. I've certainly had my, share of it in the past too. Tell us about your experience with that and how'd you overcome it?
I'll be honest with you, I really didn't have it until COVID. And so I think the good or bad about my personality is that I'm extremely confident in what I do and how I do it. And I like to think I'm really, really good at my job. I'm really good at being a CEO. I love it. Right. And when COVID happened, my company, we lost over 55% of our revenue overnight
Mm.
because 55% of our business was face-to-face events and
Wow.
nobody was doing events. And so we had hotel contracts and that no one would let us out of. And it's just a whole nightmare mess. Our profitability dropped by 80%, layoffs and pay cuts and, you know, and we didn't take a dollar of government money. So we didn't take any PPP money, and that was important at some level, right? Because I didn't feel like taxpayer dollars should come to fund what we're doing. And, as much as we wanted to and do those things, we were just kind of, also we're kind of, but we're kind of somewhat handcuffed there. But when those things were happening, you're like, who are you going to call? Like, there's no mentor to call because Michael had never been through it, right? You know, you guys had never been through it. Members of my board had never been through it. My suppliers had never been through it. No one had ever been through it, right? And so, who do you call? You call nobody. There's nobody to call. And so you have to figure out yourself. And so I remember, like, after about a 24 or 48 hour pity party, I, I woke up and I said, all right, well, I'm going to put on my big boy pants and, we're going to go figure out how to do this and we're going to survive and we're going to thrive. And, you know, we're going to be the case study Harvard writes about because there is no case study today. So we're going to be the case study Harvard writes about in 10, 15 years about how to overcome this challenge and what we did. And I'm glad we did because, I don't, the number one takeaway is that, when some things happen, you have to put on your own mask first before you can help others. And I had to go through that myself. Like I had to go through my own journey to get there. And once I did, it was pretty quick, but once I did, the rest of my team kind of fell in line. And, you know, and so, it was quite challenging. So I would say that there was that COVID window was a real challenge for us. And, but we figured it out. We thrived. We're still recovering from it, to be honest. Our events business is not 100% back. We're about 70% back, so we still got some work to do. We're still probably about a year away from being fully back on those events, on some of our events, but the rest of it's doing okay. And so, but I went and wrote my first book during COVID, my leadership book, Chase Greatness. I wrote that during COVID. That was
I
more
mean,
of a mental exercise for me, and then that did well. And now, as you know, I've written an AI book, so but even before that, the way I kind of got here, the way on that journey was after I left Dell, I was recruited to be the president of an e-commerce company, and then I did that for a few years, and then worked with a VC, and we essentially funded and built a startup that I was CEO of in the audio technology space. Did that for a few years, sold that company, and then was sitting around when this other new opportunity came along, and that this company was, it was really challenged, and it was essentially an absolutely major turnaround situation, and it was an extremely entrepreneurial situation that needed to happen, and so we did all that stuff, and so now we're on a good path, and we'll see what happens here over the next 12 months.
I really enjoy how you just so casually talk about some really, worthy, significant business ventures. I expect that that's because that's just your everyday, but people who aren't quite there, perhaps are aspiring to be there. Um, I think we can't discount the work, the effort, the personal development journey, the leadership development that goes into arriving at a place like this where you can casually talk about the past.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a journey. Everybody has got to go through their own journey, their own path. No one, you don't have to follow my path or what I did or why I'm doing what I do. But I'll tell you, the number one key to success, I think, if you're going to be a good CEO, is you have to have an amazing team underneath you, and you have to empower them. You can't, sure, there are some that are successful where everything runs through them and they're dictatorial about it, and that's fine. And some of that may work, but the culture's crap, right? And I kind of take the tact of, the more I can get, the more I can build an amazing management team. And I like to think I have a fabulous management team. I've got a fantastic management team. I invest a lot in them to be great, and they do a wonderful job. And they then manage the rest. And so my main point is that people focus on customers. Well, and usually when they talk about customers, they focus on that external customer. I focus on the internal customer first. So my priority is my internal customer, period. That's my
Mhm.
employees. It's my
Right.
employees and my team. Because if they're doing well, if they have the tools, if they're doing well, if they have what they need to be successful, then the external customers will take care of itself, right? So and yeah, and so that's what I focus on. So that's I like to think that's my job. Like my job is to make sure I am taking care of my customers, and hence and I take care of them not just within the walls of the business. I try to help them outside the walls of the business as well. That's why in my first book, Chase Greatness, I coined this phrase enlightened leadership. And to me, enlightened leadership says it builds on servant leadership, which I know you both are familiar with.
Yep.
And it says, hey Laura, hey Vicky, I'm not just here to take care of you within the walls of the company. I'm also here to support you outside the walls of the company. Right. And so that's what I try to focus on. That's what I try to do. And
And you
and it
explain
works.
this philosophy and this approach in the book
Yeah.
for those who are interested in perhaps learning
Yeah.
more about
Yeah.
enlightened leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. The name of the book is called Chase Greatness, Enlightened Leadership for the Next Generation of Disruption. Take a look. So that's the first book. It did really well when it came out. It was released in 2021. It did really well. It was a bestseller, and that was exciting. And so it did extremely well. And I do some talks on leadership, and then from there over time, obviously, the AI thing is interesting for me because the company that was sold that VC audio, the VC technology company I was running, that one was focused on the audio space, and we were building AI audio algorithms back then. So this is like 12, 13 years ago. And so this is before ChatGPT. It's all based on machine learning. And so after we sold the company, I'm like, all right, well, I want to learn how the sausage is made a little bit. So I went to MIT and I got certified in AI from MIT. And then fast forward 2 years ago when November 30th of 2022, we wake up one morning and there's an announcement called ChatGPT 3.5 is here. And it's like, boom, right? It exploded. And
Yeah.
the interesting thing is that my company, the current company, we cover from a media perspective on the B2B side, we cover data analytics, we cover business intelligence, we cover cloud infrastructure, we cover cybersecurity. So kind of we're covering all these things kind of anyways. And then this AI thing, and we were coming kind of machine learning AI, but then this whole ChatGPT thing, generative AI came out in Florida, caught everybody by surprise. And that's when I literally decided that day that this, to me, it's going to be the greatest invention since we invented electricity, and it's going to have the biggest impact on society since electricity. And it's going to be something that every single person on the planet has to know and learn. It's going to transform every aspect of our lives, every aspect from how we make product to medicine to transportation. Every single thing is going to get, AIified, so to speak. And so, so you have to learn it. So that's why I wrote the book AI Made Simple, and it's targeted at, in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this book so my 80-year-old mom at the time could read and understand what AI is all about, right? And so that's why I wrote the book, and yeah, and it's done well. And literally checked before this call. It's still a top 10 book, and it's been out for almost 20 months now. And so yeah, so it's done well.
It's so exciting. It's exciting. And I now I wish I'd read the book before we chatted. However, I'm going to really invite you, Rajiv, just blow my mind about AI. When you talk about it's going to be in everything, okay, yep, we kind of can acknowledge and accept that. But how? But why? And not even why. How is my life going to change as an entrepreneur, as a business person because of it? Let's even just go 5 years forward. Crystal ball?
Yeah, look, 5 years from now, AI agents are going to be ubiquitous. 5 years from now, you will have. Did you ever watch those Avengers movies or those Iron Man movies?
Yeah, sure.
You did, Laura. So
Yeah.
Vicky, you didn't watch them yet. So
Yeah.
I'll give you a few examples. So in those Iron Man movies, Iron Man, Tony Stark, he had an AI. He had an AI called Jarvis, and this was like a living, breathing, living in the walls of his life, right? And that's essentially an agent, and this AI agent that lives. So you will have your own AI agent kind of living in your walls, and you'll wake up in the morning and you'll say, pick the name of your AI. I don't know, John. Hey, John. Good morning. What's on my calendar today? Oh, you have this, this, this. Oh, you also have tonight. Don't forget, you have a podcast. You have the Resilient Entrepreneur podcast with Laura and Vicky tonight at 6 o'clock. Oh, damn, I forgot. I also have a workout at that time. Do me a favor. Can you please reach out to the gym and let them know I can't make the 6 o'clock workout to reschedule for tomorrow? Sure, no problem. And the AI, my AI, will talk to their AI and to reschedule it. And then my AI will come back to me proactively and say, okay, it's done. You're rescheduled. It just, stuff like that.
Do we have to wait 5 years for that?
So agents are starting to roll out now. I think 2026, 2027 will be kind of the year of the agent. But this stuff only works as computing power increases. So if you think about AI development, the AI today will be 10 trillion times smarter by 2030.
Wow.
Trillion times smarter than it is today. And think about how smart it is already. Right now, ChatGPT is essentially a high school and above level of education. Some are saying by the end of this year it'll have a PhD, maybe sooner, a PhD level of intelligence. So if that's the case, imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years. You're now approaching, Star Trek Lieutenant Commander Data level stuff, right? Everybody will have a robot in the house. You'll have a robot in your house, just like Rosie from the Jetsons, right? You're not going to have the Terminator robots, but you'll have robots in your house that will do laundry, that will do the dishes, right? So you don't have to do it, right? Warehouses around the world are going to have robots in the warehouses. Factories are going to become more automated to drive automation. I'll give you another thing that in the next 5 years, I will tell you, I think in the next 5 to 7 years, we could very well be living in a world where we start to eliminate all car accidents. How about that? Why? The reason why is because we will all be in smart cars. It doesn't mean electric cars, meaning our cars will be smart, meaning, so right now, if you have a car and it gives you lane departure warning, right? It beeps at you. Well, you're going over the lane, it beeps at you and it tries to correct you, right? Or it shows you it's got a little blind spot indicator on the side mirror, right? Those are smart tools that are sensors that are built in, right? Cameras and all that stuff. Well, what will happen is that imagine a world where if I'm driving on the highway and Vicky, you're driving on the highway, and all of a sudden I slam on my brakes, right? And right now you probably rear end me, car accident, you might hurt yourself, whatever, right? But in the future, what will happen is my car will always be talking to your car. And so if I slam on my brakes, your car will automatically slow down and know it's happening and stop, for example, right? If I'm departing out of this lane, your car will recognize that and move back or move forward or move to the side or automatically, right? We'll take control and move that. So it's kind of like autopilot on an airplane. So you'll almost have that type of technology. And so if that happens, think of the domino effect. You know what the number one cause of hospital emergency rooms visits are around the world?
Car accidents.
Wow.
So if we can eliminate 70, 80, 90% of car accidents, what's the domino effect of that to society? Not as many people are dying, number one. Number two, that means hospital resources don't have to be used for that. They can be used for other patient care, right? Doctors, nurses can be focused on other things, right? So 3, insurance rates will hopefully be more manageable and come down because you don't have that anymore. There'll be other things, right? So there's that. I mean, look, and I apologize. I'm going to do something. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm going to read something to you, right? I was having a conversation with someone today about AI and cancer. And, someone brought up today how, Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle,
Yep.
right? And he said, he was on a talk and he said that in the next 5 to 10 years, we could absolutely find a cure for cancer, right? And people didn't understand how that works. And so, and he talked about how the AI is essentially going to be able to build custom vaccines per person. based on
Whoa.
your own DNA, right? So
That's
like
wild.
so imagine that, right? So that's what's crazy, so think of it as AI as this highly advanced problem solver. So just like how ChatGPT, you know, generates sentences by analyzing patterns in language. Imagine an AI that analyzes patterns in biology. It'll study, so there's three of us here, right? It'll study each one of our unique genetic and biological information and codes, such as our DNA, our RNA, our individual proteins, because everybody's different, right?
Right.
And it'll also then understand the makeup of my body and the cancer cells in your body, and like why don't I get it? Why did you get it? Like, I mean, it'll understand that, and then once it has that data, and by the way, data is going to be the new oil. And to be successful in AI, you got to know data. But this is data, so the AI is now receiving data about our own biology. The AI, once it has the data, can now go and design proteins that act like little precision tiny tools, and then these proteins get custom engineered, and they go out and seek out and attack only the cancer cells in our body while leaving the healthy cells alone. Because right now you have all this chemo and radiology, and it just hurts
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like having your own personalized medicine factory that creates a treatment just for you. Because right now it's one size fits all. If you have high blood pressure, it's one size fits all. Imagine a customized AI solution that says, no, I'm only going to treat your high blood pressure because you have a unique type of high blood pressure, and here's what we're going to do just for you. So the goal here is to harness the power of AI to create these treatments that are not just one size fits all, but that are tailored specifically to my body, to your body, and in the way our body handles. Because if God forbid one of us gets cancer, the way our bodies are going to react differently because they're just different, right? So how do we now do that? And this approach will maximize the effectiveness while minimizing side effects and revolutionize how we treat illness like cancer or other things. And so, look, if you are someone who is blind, you'll be able to see in the next 5 to 10 years. If you are someone who is deaf, you'll be able to hear. If you're someone who can't walk, you're going to be able to walk, right? So that's what's coming. That's what's coming. So I don't know about eternal, but we won't be eternal, but we could definitely be living longer lives. And that's the other thing, right? How will our social norms be affected? So think of it that way, right? So if the retirement age, for example, in the States is roughly 67 years old, but if now my kids or my grandkids are living to 120 or 130 or whatever the age is, well, why are they retiring at 67? Maybe they have to retire at 87 or 97, right?
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then that means what does that do to Social Security and healthcare and Medicare? So there's all these different kinds of things. Like, I mean, I think the AI, to me, I think AI is going to usher in what I call the world of abundance. And I think we are probably in the next 5 to 10 years, a three day work week. And anything you want to accomplish in your life, you'll be able to accomplish. Like, think of it this way. Do you guys have young kids by any chance?
I do. Yeah.
Laura, how old is your kid?
16 and almost 12.
All right. So your 16-year-old, what are they studying math?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Math and all the regular subjects.
What are they studying in math?
Oh, I don't know. He doesn't tell me anymore. But I'll tell you, my daughter, I know what she's doing. She's doing percents, fractions, working out cost of, an item to bring to Bermuda and working out all the different percentages and duty and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about her for a second. So let's hypothetically, I'm sure she's super intelligent, but let's just hypothetically assume she's struggling with math. Okay. In the past, you'd go find a tutor and you'd hire a tutor, and they will either do it virtually on Zoom, or you have to go to their house, or they come to your house, or whatever, or it's the teacher who stays late, and you say, I'll pay you an extra $40 or whatever on the side, and just come over and just help, right? But now you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, I want you to be Albert Einstein. And you give ChatGPT a persona of Albert Einstein because it's trained on Albert Einstein. I want you to train my daughter who's 12. She's struggling with fractions and decimals and whatever, right? And now you have Albert Einstein being the tutor for your daughter for free or $20 a month. That is crazy, right? Imagine if your son says, Mom, I really into astronomy, and I really want to learn more about astronomy and space travel. Well, tell ChatGPT to take on the persona of Galileo. Would you not want to have Galileo train your son? Yes, you would, right? Or if your son says, "Boy, I really want to check out the theater and I really want to learn how to write plays," well, have your son get tutored by Shakespeare, right? That's and what will happen is in the future is your AI agent will take on the persona of Shakespeare, and literally you'll have an agent, and you can have a hologram with it, or they'll wear their virtual reality goggles, and literally a virtual reality or an agent will a holographic image of Shakespeare can pop up and train your son on how to write a play or how to direct a play, or say be Steven Spielberg or hey, whatever, right? So my point is that anything that you want to accomplish in your life, personal, family, business, you will be able to accomplish. And that to me will create at some point a world of abundance. So anything you want, you will be able to have. That's the future we're headed down. And by the way, it's going to be a while until we get there, but that's the future we're headed down.
Well, it'll be in our lifetime. That's exciting.
Yeah. It's such a mix between like exciting and terrifying at the same time. I think as a business owner and as a, just a person growing kids, raising children into this new world, it's so hard to know what the next step is, if I'm directing them in the right way, if I'm directing myself in the right way, because I think you're right. There's so much coming and it's coming at us really, really fast. And I think like a lot of business owners, we're worried about, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Are we learning what we're supposed to be learning? I mean, of course, everyone's tinkering around with ChatGPT and some of the other stuff that's already sort of popping in. My daughter showed up, just speaking about kids, with a AI on her Word. And I said, what's this? Ghostwriter.ai. I said, what's this? It's freaking brilliant. It's brilliant. I was like, oh my God, you don't even need to learn how to write. That's going to help you. And I was like, it's just going to become so, like you said, ubiquitous in our life that it almost feels like it's not noticeable, but yet it's so there. And what are entrepreneurs supposed to do?
Well, look at your daughter, for example, right? You said that she won't need to learn to write. Yeah, probably. But you know what she's going to have to learn to do? Is she's going to have to learn how to become a really good storyteller. Because the key to success with AI is going to be your ability to interact with AI. That's the lesson. Like your daughter and son, anybody who's listening, their daughters and sons, whoever's listening, kids, make sure they become really, really good storytellers. Because the more you can command the prompt box and be an amazing storyteller in that box, the better your results are going to be. The three of us can go right now to ChatGPT and we can have it say, I don't know, show me how to make a puzzle from A to Z about the world map or whatever, right? Now, you can write one sentence, it'll tell you what to do. And Vicky, you'll get a very generic answer. Now, Laura, you might give it 4 or 5 sentences and you'll get a lot more detailed answer. I'm going to give it 500 word. So it's going to be 10, 15 sentences and it's going to, this and take this into account, take that account, blah, 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 right? Because I know how to do this. And my answer is going to be so detailed that I'm going to be light years ahead of you in the developing of that map company, for example. I'm just making it up. So being able to interact and talk to it, learning how to talk to it, and getting over this mental break, this mental block, what I'm finding in people's heads while I'm talking to a robot, I'm talking to an algorithm. Yeah, but you have to get over that. So like when I had this talk I talk about, which are the 6 key takeaways for AI success in business. And number 2 is be curious, not judgmental, right? And that to me, and by the way, I stole that from Ted Lasso, and that's 100% true. And that's what it is. You have to be really curious and everything's all relative. So you talk about advancement in business, you talk about advancement in science with AI, it's coming out as fast. Well, how fast do we think when electricity was invented, how fast did that come at people? How about when Henry Ford invented the combustible engine? If he had asked his customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? So if think of the space race from the time the Wright brothers launched their plane in Kitty Hawk to the time we put men on the moon was only 65 years. And you think about all the development that came out of the space race, microwave ovens, boiled blankets, baby formula stuff, right? I mean, think about all those developments and new inventions, and that's one reason why I'm actually kind of excited about this Mars thing, because I think there's going to be so much new advancement that's going to come that we haven't thought of, right? And so that's kind of where we are. And as entrepreneurs, what's going to happen is that in the past, maybe you needed 20 people in your entrepreneurial startup. Well, now you might need only 10 because AI can do the job of the other 10. So I think what you're going to see, and if you think about the iPhone, right? When this first launched, Steve Jobs, but when Steve Jobs first launched the iPhone, it was basically an iPod, and a video and the phone all kind of all in one. But there were no apps. There was no Uber. There was no Airbnb, right? There was no app to go make a booking on Marriott via an app, right, or whatever, or book your flight on United or whatever, right? There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook, and whatever. So you needed, YouTube was still young, but there was no video. You know what I mean? So, but my point is that look how fast, and we're on what version? This is the iPhone 16. So look how the world has changed because of just the smartphones, whether it's iPhone or Android, right? Look how the world has changed. Right now, Google is testing and rolling out Waymo self-driving taxis around the country, which I've been in, and they're crazy. It's awesome, right? So, but that's today. 5 years from now, there's going to be Waymos everywhere. People, kids. There's a good chance, Laura, your kids may never need to go get a driver's license because their car is going to be so smart. They'll have a car, but it'll just drive them wherever they need to go. Right. So it's those kinds of things. Right. And so that's where we are. And that's kind of where we're headed. And as an entrepreneur, you have to be on top of these tools and these advancements. And the worst thing you can do is remember. So I have this saying that most companies and people fail not because they did the wrong thing. They did the right thing for too long. So basically that message is don't become, Blockbuster to someone's Netflix.
Yeah, I think it just definitely speaks into the entrepreneurs need to be the ones who are really open to the opportunities and the gaps. Because, like you just mentioned, there was a phone before there were apps. But once there was a phone and people realized we could create apps for that phone, they moved really quickly. Entrepreneurs moved quickly into that space, created all the apps. So now we have this high functioning phone that we can do absolutely everything on. That happened really quickly. Like you said, that happened really quickly. And now with AI, I think it's accelerating the rate even faster than we can imagine.
Well, what's going to happen is you're going to see, like I said, you're going to have a lot more entrepreneurs. And so right now, there's a kid somewhere in his or her bedroom or in their garage, and they're going to build $1 billion company with only two people. It's happening somewhere. There's a kid right now, some 18, 19, 20-year-old kid sitting in college, the next Michael Dell, the next Bill Gates, the next Mark Zuckerberg, wherever they might be, next Steve Jobs, who's going to figure something out, and they're going to have the next billion-dollar idea, and it's just going to be one or two people in the company. But the point is that everybody's going to have access to that. Everybody can be an entrepreneur because everybody has access to the same tools. And it doesn't matter if you're in India, it doesn't matter if you're in Adelaide, it doesn't matter if you're in Shanghai, China, right? Or you're in Barcelona. It doesn't matter where you are. You'll have the same access to the tool I have sitting in Southern California, or you have sitting where you are. So it doesn't matter. So it levels the playing field for everybody. So the entrepreneurs of the future are going to be the ones who really know how to use, speak, and tell the story and become really good really become storytellers with the AI.
I like what you're saying about being location is not important anymore, because I think that's something new for this time, is that you used to have to be in New York or like Silicon Valley or, in London in order to be the mover, the shaker, the closest to the technology, closest to the money. I think that's changed completely now. I think partially because of COVID. Tell me if you think I'm right or wrong there, but also because of all these advancements in AI. It's moving it to where anybody with fast internet can make an impact and create something.
Yeah, no, I think like even in my company, right? Like everybody's 100% remote, right? A few people go into an office. I go into a small little executive office, but most people are remote. And to me, if the job gets done at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., the job's going to get done. As long as the job gets done, we're making our numbers, it's fine. So to me, this whole return to office thing is fine. It's not a problem for us. For some other people, it's a problem. Fine, more power to them. Let them make their decisions, right? But for me, it's not a problem. Now, I think that the good news about entrepreneurship, you're right. It'll happen anywhere. It can be in London. It can be anywhere in the world. It'll happen everywhere. With that being said, I still think that if someone wants to go raise big money, they still need to figure out how to have somewhat of a foothold here. It's either going to be here or it's going to be in like maybe even Dubai or maybe even Japan. But having a foothold here in Silicon Valley or somewhere in California, so it's because these investors are going to want to see you, talk to you, understand the progress. It's helpful. It's not going to hurt. So yeah, but I mean, you could. But my point is, you can still develop your solution anywhere in the world. But having that proximity will assist. Will assist you on your journey. It'll help. It can't hurt. It'll help.
I have so many questions and I'm so excited. And you achieved the challenge. You blew my mind. So thank you. And I'd love to just, have dinner with you for a couple of hours and just hear more, because I know there's more in there. And thank goodness you wrote that book. And I believe it's your first book of probably many, because I also know that your passion is to make, you said the word earlier, make AI accessible to all, to democratize this. Tell us how you're going to do that, or how you're already doing that.
Well, look, I think the best way to describe that right now is, the book is targeted at the every person, right? It's not targeted at engineers. It's not targeted at, the CEO of Meta. It's not targeted at programmers. It's targeted at you, right? It's designed to give everybody a basic foundation and understanding of what it is, how it can be used, and the benefits and value it can bring to your life. And that's what it's for. And that's step one on this journey, right? We'll see where step two goes, but step two will be probably more talking about how to really master the prompt box. Step three will probably be more along the lines of understanding the different tools that are coming out, and the tools are coming out fast and furious, right? And then step four will probably be some sort of, training solution, right? Some training offerings, some training solutions. So, I mean, if this is a basketball game, this is literally the very first pass in the very first quarter of the game. That's how early this is. Or if it's a baby, the baby is just kind of standing up in the crib, It's not, this, so we're not even in the crawl phase yet of this whole technology.
Yeah.
And it's already doing so well. That's how early we are, and it's advancing so fast. So like my goal here is to try to democratize and make it easy for everybody to understand. My goal is for everybody. I give my book to everybody in the world so they can just start to figure out. It's because I really think, and granted I'm biased, I'd like to think that the book does a really nice job of just simply explaining what it is and how easy it is to start using it.
I'm excited about that. Please, every single person listening to this, order that book. The link will be in the show notes. Please, it's definitely our mission too, for entrepreneurs to avail themselves of what is already at our fingertips. We're talking about what might be happening, what will be happening in 5 or 10 years' time. In fact, let's face it, we're human. We sit here and look into the future, and we can only predict what we know now. But as you've already described, it's an exponential growth. So we actually can't predict, well, to a fully accurate degree of exactly what it will be. We can only surmise what's possible. But if we haven't seen the possibilities, we just have to be open to those possibilities. And as you listen and watch this podcast episode, I urge you to have a look at that book and to think more openly about AI. And if somebody approaches you and says, oh, AI, it's going to steal jobs, it's going to shut down economies. I'm a coach, Rajeev. I'm a business coach. I'm a personal development coach. And I know that AI can coach with a voice. I just need to speak into it, and the app comes back to me with this lovely, soft, gentle voice and guides me on what to do next. Am I going to not be a coach anymore? Of course not, because it's about relationships, and you touched on that. It's about not being lazy, about being human. That's how I see this whole thing. We must lean in and get better at doing relationships, the connection piece. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're 100% correct. And on the job thing, look, is there going to be some job displacement? Sure, there is, but there's also going to be whole new industries that are going to be created that we don't even know yet, right? So just like I go back to, when the first PCs hit people's desks, people thought all computer programmers were going to go away, right? All these people lose their jobs. And some of them did, but then they got retrained to be computer programming or PCs and laptops or whatever the case might be, and how that changed the world and learning Excel and how it changed people in finances life, or think about how Adobe changed the way marketers
Mm-hmm.
created projects, right? So think about how the iPhone has changed the way we interact with people and talk to people, and wearing AirPods, and the three of us are in three different parts of the world, and we're all having this conversation on Riverside podcast didn't exist 10, 15 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, right? So, so my point is that, there's going to be new companies and new industries coming that we haven't even thought of that's going to create more jobs. Now, this is what I will tell you is the case. There is going to be job loss, and the people going to lose their jobs are the people that don't use AI. So if you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your job to someone that knows how to use AI. That's where the job loss is going to come. So you don't have to listen to me, and you can think I'm crazy, and people can listen and say Rajeev is full of what. That's fine. That's no problem. I mean, I've been called worse. Don't have to get the book. And I just feel like it's my job to pound the table and have to tell people, look, I think it's coming. I think you should adopt it. I think you should learn it. I think you should use it in your personal, family, and business life. And the more of an expert you can become on these tools, the better off your life is going to be and the better position you're going to be for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And these kids that are coming out of school in the next 5 to 10 years, they are so used to technology. They've never not had technology in some way in their life, and they have no fear of it. They want to use it. They want to grab on to my kids are the ones introducing me to new stuff all the time, like I said earlier. So I just know there's so much more of that coming out. But I am curious because I've had this thought for a while now. How far behind is education in this new space? Because I've got kids in school and I see what they're learning and how they're learning too. And I've heard of universities banning chat GPT and I think, oh, hang on. Like, kids need to know how to use the tools, not just ban the tools because they're worried about cheating. I'll teach them how to use the tools to write, even better is more my mindset. But how far behind do you think is education and also government? Because that's a whole nother maybe kettle of fish.
Well, I mean, government is like moving a giant aircraft carrier. It's going to be slower to adopt. So let's forget about government now. But I mean, education, like I think education is starting to catch up. We are hearing more and more, I'm hearing more and more how education is starting to embrace tools. Look, here's the thing. The whole thing about the cheating piece, imagine when the internet became ubiquitous, right? Kids can go research, before you'd have to go to the library, you had to get the microfiche, and now it's all online and you can copy and paste and do stuff that way and whatever, right? So there was always ways to do some of these things. The thing though is that I think the smart schools and the smart teachers are going to realize, okay, I understand that if you're going to write a paper on World War II, I understand that you're probably going to use ChatGPT, okay? But here's the thing, your grade is not going to be based on you using ChatGPT. Your grade is going to be based on how well you absorbed the information ChatGPT provided and how accurate is it, because ChatGPT is not perfect. It's got some issues. So you still have to go through and read it. You have to double check the sources. You have to make sure it's right. So they're still learning that. But their grade is going to follow more of that case study style of method, where their grade is going to be more based on their ability to interact and how well they annotated and how well they understood the data, right? How well they understood the information provided. So gone will be the days of true and false questions and probably multiple choice. It'll be more based on, okay, Laura, tell me why the U.S. entered World War II. Well, it entered World War II because of this happening, that, and whatever, blah, 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 right? So your grade will be based on that. So it'll be more that case study style method. Now, that's the way I think the grading and all that stuff is going to go, the learning from that perspective. However, if you want to think about the classroom of the future, I think the classroom of the future is going to be all AI and sensor based. It's going to be AI agents and sensor based. And what will happen is that each kid will have their laptop and they'll have their agent, and the AI in the room will talk about, and just like there's smart boards now in classrooms, right? So there'll be a smart board and the teacher's doing a lesson, and then it'll say, okay, tell us this here's this thing on the quadratic formula, right, in calculus or whatever. Now, the sensor and the agents will know which students are getting it right away. Oh, so we have 30 kids in the class, 10 have gotten it right away. 10 are kind of working their way through it with the help of the AI and the agent to understand it. The other 10 are just not getting it and they're struggling. Well, if you're the teacher, you become a conductor in the classroom. So you're going to be more like a conductor in the classroom. So you're going to say, okay, kids, the 10 of you that are getting it, you are going to keep working with your advanced AI agent and you're going to keep moving forward on this problem. You 10 kids that are struggling, you've got it. Just keep working here. Take a look at this, this, and this. And then you are going to go, you're then personally going to go spend more time with the 10 that are struggling. Maybe those 10 kids need more handholding to understand. So that's where you sit down with them. What are you struggling with? Well, now it becomes, instead of a classroom that is like 1 to 30, it starts to boil down to 1 to 1, 1 to 10, 1 to 5. Much like how we talked 30 minutes ago about how cancers could get cured, everybody learns differently. So the AI will then get customized to say, oh, Rajeev learns different than Laura, learns different than Vicky. Rajeev needs to absorb the information through video, whereas Laura can absorb the information through the written word. So let me show Rajeev a video on how World War II got started.
Oh man.
See what I'm saying? So my point is that, so that's the type of, so education will be one-to-one, medicine will be one-to-one. So we'll be living in this world where this hyper-personalization is going to feel like we're living in this kind of one that it's speaking directly to us. So
That's the best news.
Then the problem is we're going to think the world revolves around us more than anything, right? But that's kind of where we're headed, and so, but that's kind of where we are. So it's going to be an exciting time. We'll see where it goes. Now I could be wrong with all this stuff, but but there's also fears, there's also challenges, there's also scary stuff. Like I'm glad my kids are 23 and 21, and I'll tell you, I worry for people that have daughters, because to me the biggest concern with AI is going to be deep fakes. Right? That's when someone takes an image of your daughter and sticks it on the body of somebody doing something they didn't do. Right? Or God forbid, someone needs is 3 seconds of your voice off the podcast, and they can record you doing anything, saying anything and doing anything, because they already have your image. That's all they need, 3 seconds of your voice.
Yeah, it's gonna make.
So that's the stuff that worries me. That's the stuff that keeps me up at night about this AI stuff. But the good news about AI and social media kind of follow the same path. The good news about social media is that everybody has a voice. The bad news about social media is that everybody has a voice, and the same thing was with AI. Good news is everybody has access to the tools. The bad news is, man, everybody has access to the tools.
Oh
Yeah, absolutely.
The good people, the good guys,
Thanks
and
for
the
planting
bad guys.
that idea out there in the universe, Rajeev. Good on you.
It's already out there. I didn't plan it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
already
I
been out
think
there for a
definitely
long
people
time.
have been talking about that, and it is obviously a huge concern. And anyone who's a leader or any public space, or like you said, even just a host of a podcast, it's quite easy to. But I was able to Photoshop heads on bodies, 20 years ago. So, the technology to do that kind of stuff has been around for a very long time.
Right, but now you can do it, and you can put it on Instagram, and it can go viral in 5
Millions can
minutes.
see it.
And the difference is that you can now take Taylor Swift's face and put it on somewhat like an OnlyFans model body doing things, and it can go viral, and it has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. Or you can have Taylor Swift saying the N-word or whatever, right? And that goes viral, and it looks like her and sounds like her, and there's nothing she can do to stop it once it's out there.
This absolutely leads into the title of our podcast, which is resilience, resilient entrepreneurs. Being resilient, I believe, is going to be so much more important. It's going to be some personal characteristic that we'll all be developing because, as you said earlier, we need to believe in ourselves. And when we believe in ourselves and something like that happens, it might knock us off for a minute, but we pick ourselves up and we say, I know who I am, and the people around me know who I am. And if there's half a world of people who think I, famous person, have done something that I didn't, I'm still good with who I am. And then learning how to respond in a way that feels human and authentic. It all comes back to knowing who we are and showing that to the world. Call me naive.
No, you're a PR agent. It's obvious. The PR comes out in that, and I think it's going to be interesting what industries are going to rise in this, and PR might be one of them. People might need more public relations to help deal with things and to manage things like that happening, because, like you said, it's going to be easier and easier.
Yeah, I think if anything, I think you're going to see more crisis PR type stuff, right? I think the day of hiring a PR agency to write you spending $1,000 on writing a press release is gone, because anybody can now use ChatGPT to write a press release, right? So it's really going to be about but I go back to what I was talking about earlier, right? At the end of the day, if you learn how to use the tool, you're going to do the one thing money can't do, right? Which is buy time. The same thing goes for the PR side. If I'm spending whatever $5,000 a month for my PR agency, whatever I'm not spending that, but let's just say I'm spending that. And if all of a sudden, their job for me can get done and I save them 8-10 hours a month. Well, that's 8-10 hours a month that they can now spend on doing what they should be doing, which is pitching, right? Rather than writing press releases and creating reports. I don't care about that stuff. I want to be pitched. I want to be on more podcasts like you guys or whatever, right? So that's where it's going to head. So it's all the mundane day-to-day grunt work stuff, that's going to get all shifted to the AI.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm definitely good with that.
Yeah, but that's how PR agencies are going to distinguish themselves, right? And by the way, I'm telling you, there's some PR agencies that are going to think this is a bunch of bullshit, and they're not going to do anything. Like you think about lawyers, right? I can get ChatGPT, if I ask it the right way, to write me a full NDA. Well, in the past, I'd have to spend $500 for my lawyer, $1,000 for my lawyer to write an NDA, right? So now ChatGPT does it. I think any kind of language-based type of job is ripe for disruption. So outsourcing companies, right? Lawyers, instead of 100 paralegals in your company, you might need only 10. You still need some paralegals, but you won't need as many, right? So that's where some of this stuff is headed.
Wow.
I don't want this conversation to end.
I know.
But we must.
Yeah,
we must fun. And we will.
It's been fun. Thank you.
It is. Yeah, it's important to have more and more of these conversations. And I really appreciate your time to really come in and dig deep on the AI. I knew we were going to. You blew Vicky's mind. You definitely blew my mind. I'm still on the fence of if I'm more excited or more nervous about it, but I do know it's a lot to look forward to. And I'm very grateful to hear what your thoughts on education, because that felt good. As a parent, I worry so much about the world my kids are coming into. As an entrepreneur, I worry about, the businesses and all the entrepreneurs we help and assist while their businesses are going to manage. But hey, it's time to get on this AI bandwagon. It's time to see what the possibilities are, is to figure out what is for you and do what entrepreneurs do best. Find the gaps, fill them.
Yeah. And how do we create the gaps? Which is what I really heard you say, Rajeev, creating the gaps and being disruptive.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's time for
Thank you. Thank you for your insights. It's been really fascinating and fantastic. So good to meet you.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.